Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today and welcome to this educational presentation. Now I'd like to start out differently today by actually asking you, the audience, what is the most difficult thing you find about trading? I mean, after all, we're all about educating you since we are first and foremost an educational company and our only focus, our only goal is simply to educate you. So we want to find out what is the most difficult thing? What are your issues actually with trading? For example, I'd like you to start out by looking at this chart in Netflix. Just imagine, perhaps some of you were lucky enough to be in this actual stock, but let's say you were thinking about it, or let's say you haven't traded this or you don't trade this market, but perhaps you did. What would be the most difficult thing about trading this? Would it be your money management? Would it be your exits? Would it be your stop placement? Would it be your entries? Would it be just on simply managing the trade? So these are very important things, and this is what we're happy to announce today because we took all of these questions and we know what really is bothering a lot of the traders we're having difficulty with. So we formed our new program, which is Specialist Trading's Masterclass. We're really excited about this because this is the first time we've ever introduced anything such as this in our courses, in our live classes. And this is going to be a 4-week live course where we simply talk about a series of different topics that really pinpoint the difficulties you're having in trading. Okay, so this is going to be the first in our series of 4-week classes. I'm going to introduce to you what the curriculum is today and show you exactly what's entailed in our master class. The very first time we've done anything like this with my affiliation with Pro Trader Strategies and with Specialist Trading. So I'm going to show you exactly what is going to be included once we begin this class, probably within the next month or so. And this is going to be presented once again through PTS, which is Pro Trader Strategies, my sister site, and my own company, which is Specialist Trading. Now, if you're new to my presentations, I have been trading for a total of 41 years. I first started trading on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for a total of 16 years. 9 of those years I was a specialist. So that's where we get the name Specialist Trading. Specialist doesn't mean you are any more special than anyone else. It just means that you actually specialized in a select amount of stocks and equities where you actually made the market. So if anyone wanted to buy or sell from you, they had to go to the trader who specialized in that particular stock. I traded through the crash of 1987 and the bull market that followed. I've traded straight up markets, straight down markets, any technique, any system, any strategy or method you can think of. Trust me, I've traded it, I've tried it. So I know in my over 4 decades of trading what works in terms of consistency and what doesn't. And so that's where we came with the idea for the masterclass. We're just going to focus on the things that traders, our students around the world, as well as prospective members that are thinking about joining our courses, have difficulty with. And we're going to focus on those small topics that perhaps may have touched upon lightly in webinars and in courses, but that we'll devote an entire 4 weeks to covering these things so that you can really elevate your trading. So I'm going to share with you what is involved in our upcoming masterclass. But before we begin, as always, we are first required to show you this by law. So please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results using these particular techniques and methods today, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And please also remember that any and all examples I share with you today are strictly for educational purposes only. And as you're taking a brief moment to view our disclaimer, I would also like to take this time to invite each and every one of you to follow us on Twitter. Every day I post different information, anywhere from signals that our strategies have generated to little bits of wisdom I've accumulated along the way. In fact, yesterday I posted that one of our strategies generated a sell signal in Bitcoin. And I think last I checked, it had been down today and it was doing very nicely. So there's lots of free information to follow us on Twitter. Okay, so as I stated at the very beginning, our only goal, our sole purpose at Specialist Trading and Pro Trader Strategies is simply to educate you, okay? We're not trying to sell you the master system that will generate thousands of % per year. We're not trying to tell you, okay, well, we only trade ETFs or we only trade Bitcoin or we only trade a specific currency pair and this is where you come for your signals in that. We don't believe in that either. Our only goal is simply to teach you, to provide you with the tools and the education and the methods that have stood the test of time so that ultimately you make your own decisions, not us. So we're trying to give you all this information so that you can be in charge of your own trading destiny. When I first started trading 41 years ago, I did probably the same thing many of you are doing. I was looking at all the traditional wisdom, such as volume, support, and resistance, looking at the institutions, listening to all the news, and guess what? It didn't work for me then. So there's really no consistency in those methods. They'll work every once in a while, but in terms of being consistent, I'm relying on them to sustain you for over 4 decades. I couldn't find anything there. So I was lucky enough to have some mentors who taught me the same things that I teach to all of my students around the world in over 115 countries and in virtually every state in the United States. And why do I teach them these things? Because these things sustained me for 4 decades. Hopefully, they'll be able to sustain you as well. So as you can see here, my goal is not to force feed you signals. My goal is to teach you how to trade with the specialist edge, okay? Now, since this is an educational class, since we are an educational company, we will be taking each and every one of your questions, but please hold off till the very end. I have a lot of information to share with you today about our new upcoming masterclass, and I don't want to stop every time to answer a question. So if you have a question, please wait till the very end, and I promise I'll get to it, okay? All right. The only question I will answer is the most common, and that is this being recorded? Yes, it is. We record all of our presentations, so if you have to leave early or if you're having technical issues, don't worry, we will send you a link to this recording, okay? All right, so kindly wait till the end to ask any questions. All right, so we asked traders around the world, and we started, once again, teamed up with Pro Trader Strategies, and we wanted to find out, not only from our students, from prospective students, from members or people that were also thinking about becoming a member, what is the most difficult thing you find about trading? All right, because everyone came with a different answer. There were a lot of different things about finding the trend, about money management, but we were really surprised, and we did this months ago where we asked people, we were really surprised what the number one common answer was to all of this. And when we asked people around the world, they said the number one thing that they have difficulty with are entries and exits. All right. I could see maybe just one, maybe just exits or maybe just entries, but really they were both. Where do I get in and where do I get out? Well, these are two of the basics of a trading plan. Okay. Now I know we stress a lot about money management. We've talked about that before. We stress about, pattern recognition and indicators and news and stuff. But most of the people had difficulty with entries and exits. And that's understandable. You'll see something and perhaps you get in too late, or perhaps you get out too early and you sit there and you go, boy, maybe I made a little money, but I'm leaving a lot on the table. Or maybe I could have made a lot more money, but I got in too late. So we decided to make what we call our masterclass. This is where we will touch on these things that are specifically having difficulty for a lot of our members, and I'm sure a lot of traders who aren't our members around the world. So let's talk about entry problems, okay? These are the specifics when we asked these students around the world. Many of them said, I already have a strategy, okay? And perhaps many of you already do have a plan that you have maybe from another educator, another website, or something you devised on your own. But the entries are just not up to par. In other words, you want some fine tuning on your entries, okay? All right, so these are one of the most common problems with traders. In other words, they'll have a plan that they feel comfortable with, they just don't feel comfortable with their entries. Another common response was, I often exit too early and I don't know where or how to get back in. Now, this is a very common problem. How many times have you gotten into a trade, it works out great, and you're thinking, boy, this is fantastic, I'm gonna make some really quick money, and you get out and you feel good about yourself and you watch whatever you were in, whatever market, makes no difference if it's currency pairs, futures, stocks, commodities, Bitcoin, and it just continues to go in the direction, and you go, oh my gosh, why did I sell? If I had only held on a little bit longer, I could have made a lot more money. So traditional wisdom says, well, you got to get back in. But where do you get back in? You don't want to get in, and the minute you buy again, it goes straight down, right? So this is a very common problem as well. Another response we got back from people around the world was, I want more trades. In other words, I want to enter a lot of times. I'm not that type of trader that likes to enter maybe once a week, all right? I want my strategy has told me to go long. I want a lot of entries, and I only get like one with the plan I have. Or maybe you're on the opposite side of the fence. Maybe the plan you have you like, but it just generates too many entries. And you say, I want less trades. I don't want to be trading that much, okay? It's not that the strategy or method is faulty. It's just that it's generating too many entries. I want less. It's a very common problem as well. And then lastly, for investors, for long-term traders, they'll say, I don't know how to add to my long-term positions. They don't have a problem with the method they're trading. It's that they just want to increase it. Let's say you were long, the market has been going up tremendously for years. Let's say you were long the spiders as, in your ETF program that you wanted to be long the ETF that represents the S&P 500, okay? Now you had bought the spiders, let's say years ago, and you're thinking, well, gosh, I've got to add to my position because I'm just doing so well. It doesn't make sense for me just to hold on to my initial position. I could be adding on to this as it goes up because I have more leverage now with my profits. But where do I get in once again for a longer term position? These are all very common entry problems, and this is what we're going to be focusing on today. All right, I'm going to share with you exactly what is included in our masterclass because of all these problems, and I'm sure you may be going through these yourself as well. We created this masterclass so we can properly address these issues that you have. Many times I have touched on these topics in our courses, in our colleges, and in our webinars, or even our educational webinars, but I'll spend maybe 15, 20 minutes on them and then move on to the gist of what you're looking for, the actual strategy or the actual method. But in the masterclass, we're going to be talking about these things that have really, kept you at bay for a while and that you really have difficulty in. And this is the first class in our series of classes that we're going to be talking about, okay? All right, so let me tell you what's going to be involved in Series 1. We're going to be talking about advanced entries and exits, because this is, once again, the number one issue, the number one problem or difficulty that most traders we have found that we surveyed have. So we're going to devote 4 weeks to this. Let me share with you what's going to be included in our curriculum in this 4-week course, okay? Week number 1, and these are all going to be live classes as well. So these will all be live classes where you'll be over online and the internet, and you'll be able to talk and converse with me. These classes will be anywhere from an hour to 2 or 3 hours if you like. It all depends, but roughly the minimum, usually all of our live classes are minimum of 1 hour at least. In the first hour, we're going to talk about learning how to listen to the markets, because this is the gist, this is the basic concept of what we teach. You have the market basically tells you everything you need to know. But most of us rely on when some guy in a chat room or someone on TV or some news announcement tells us when to enter or when to exit, based off bad news, based off support and resistance. But those are all faulty in terms of they're not consistent. All right. So we're going to learn how to listen to the markets. And what this is an emphasis on understanding trend and price analysis. We're going to focus on this, and it'll help you understand. Once you understand these concepts, then you'll know what the market wants to do, and this can be applied to some type of structure for entry or for exits. So we'll go over this all specifically and in detail in week number 1. In week number 2 of our live classes, we're going to talk about high probability entry points, okay? Now, in this specific class, we're going to talk about entry points, not exits, just entries, but for any market and any time frame. All right, and this once again will transfer over onto the trader who wants a lot of trades or who wants less trades, or for the trader who wants to add to positions or only wants to add to long-term positions. So we're going to show you some really extremely high probability entry points, and I'm going to show you some more examples later on today of what this class will entail. In week number 3, we're going to talk about what's near and dear to my heart. These are floor secrets that I learned from trading when I was on the floor for 16 years, okay? This is more based off of traditional technical analysis. These are things that I learned on the floor that are based on patterns and indicators. Now, not only the common indicators with a few change in settings, they're common patterns, but things that have a slight edge to them that a lot of traders don't know about. These can help us with our entries and with our exits, but these are what traditional floor traders use, and these are the secrets that they have from the floor. I'm going to be sharing with you what these are, and these are things I use in my personal trading as well. And then lastly, we're going to talk about one of our most popular methods and courses we have. That's the PET D. We're going to show you advanced PET D entry and exit techniques. Now, the PET D is not a system. It's not a trading strategy. It's simply a very finely tuned trend directional tool. It's a color bar algorithm that tells us if the trend is up or down. So many times we use this to define the trend. We also use it to confirm some signals. But there are literally dozens of ways to use it, and one of the best ways are these proprietary and advanced entry and exit techniques. There are many, many patterns, many different techniques to use that will enable us to enter and exit just by looking at the PET D. I share with you some of these secrets in our fourth and final live class, okay? Now what I want to do is today show you exactly what's going to be offered in week 2, all right? Because week 2 is just going to focus on entry. So let's just talk about that today, all right? We're going to focus on entries today. And let's talk about high probability entry points. In our live class, in our roughly 1 to 2 or 3 hour class, we will be strictly talking about high probability entry points. Now, I want to start out by sharing with you what my mentors taught me 4 decades ago on the trading floor of the exchange. Because the reason why I emphasize 4 decades ago is because what worked then actually works even better now. Because most people are relying on too many outside source things, so much convoluted indicators, a lot of what the news is saying, or a lot of what these so-called trading gurus are saying, but they're not focusing on what the market's saying. So this is what we're really going to focus on, and this is basically what they shared with me 4 decades ago when I was struggling. It said, Steve, the reason why you're struggling with your entries is because you're overcomplicating them. There's too many factors that they're involved for you, in other words, just to simply enter a market. If you simplify things, you will realize that there are only 2 types of entries. That's all there is. There's just 2 types of entries. And the first is called a continuation entry. So what does that mean when we say continuation entry? Well, it means that you have some type of established trend. As we look at this generic chart here, we see that we have an established uptrend, okay? So we know that we're going up. We know that we're going higher. If you are a continuation entry type of trader, what you're looking for are entries all along the way as we continue to go higher and higher. You're looking for entries here, 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 and you're not waiting for any type of stop or pause. You're just buying as it goes up higher and higher. That's a continuation entry type of trader. Usually traders who like a lot of action, who like a lot of signals, who like a lot of setups are continuation entry traders. Now this can work to the upside as well as the downside. You can also get a lot of signals as a continuation entry trader by selling to the downside, either buying puts or by just simply shorting the markets. Now the second type or style of entry is a pullback entry, all right? What does that entail, all right? If you're not familiar with pullbacks, a pullback also looks for some type of established trend. In this case, we see a generic uptrend. But what usually happens is that that uptrend will stop and will have a change in trend. Now, where most traders confuse this with is they'll think that, well, okay, we've topped out, now we're going lower. But with pullback entries, you look at the overall trend to determine what the basic movement is. And if you have the proper technique installed, you'll see that even though we went lower, this is called a counter trend in an overall uptrend. And so this is where the pullback takes place. You're looking based off some specific technique or numbers or method to actually find where this level is on the pullback, and that's where your entry is going to be. So where most traders are thinking, we've stopped going up, now we're going to go down much lower and we should sell, the pullback entry says, no, in the grand scheme of things, we're still going higher. This is just a small sell-off, a small counter trend, and we're looking to actually purchase here. And that's what usually happens. If you correctly identify the pullback, it will stop there and then resume on its upward course. Now with pullback entries, you'll have less trades, obviously, because you're waiting for these counter trends. So in a downtrend, you're waiting for a small bounce. As you see here in an uptrend, you're waiting for a small sell-off. But where everyone else is thinking, well, the trend has changed, now we're going back down or we're going up now, well, you're looking for areas to buy or to sell. Okay, so there are 2 types of entry, and that's it. There's nothing else. You're either going to be having a strong trend, and you're going to be buying all along the way as that trend is going higher, or you're going to be having a type of up and down type of trend, kind of a stair step type of trend, and that's where pullback entries are for. Now, there's nothing more complicated than that. You don't have to make your trading any more complicated than that. The only thing you have to do is just decide what type of trader you are, because in order to resolve your entry difficulties, you must first decide which type of trader you are. Are you a continuation entry trader, or are you a pullback entry trader? If you like a lot of trades, if you don't care if the trend stops or pauses, if you don't mind buying all the way up, and if you don't mind selling all the way down, then you are a continuation type of entry trader. Now, on the other hand, if you don't want that many trades, if you want to be fine-tuning your entry to get these high probability low buys or high probability high sells in an overall trend, well, then you are a pullback entry trader. But the problem lies in that most traders are trading out of sync with who they really are, all right? I know this, for example, when I was first trading 41 years ago on the floor, I was a continuation type of trader. I liked a lot of action. Sure, I was 41 years younger then, and I wanted to trade a lot more. I wanted the action. It was fun, and I wanted to keep buying as things went up and keep selling as things went down. But now, as I've gotten older in my years, and plus as I'm teaching and mentoring and giving these educational webinars, I don't have the time to be doing that or the patience, so I'm more of a pullback trader now. Now, the only problem would be, not that one is better than the other, the only problem would be if I were trading out of sync with who I am now. In other words, with my limited time to trade and with my age difference now, if I were trading 10, 20, 30 times a day, I don't think I could handle it. So I would be out of sync with my personal style. Therefore, there's nothing wrong with either one. You just have to decide and to be in sync with which type of trader you are. So go back and look at your trading. If you have a strategy, if you have a system that's constantly getting you in a bunch of trades and you don't like to trade that way, then you're out of sync. You should possibly be a pullback type of trader. Or conversely, if you bought a system or a strategy, spent $20,000, $30,000 for it, and it trade once a month, you're thinking, I can't wait once a month to take a trade. Well, that's a pullback type of trade, so possibly you're in the wrong style of trading. Maybe you would want to change to have something that gives you a lot of entries. All right, so these are the main difficulties. In order to resolve your entry difficulties, it's not complicated. It could be that you're out of sync because there are just two types of entries, either a continuation entry or a pullback type of entry, all right? All right, so let's look at some recent high probability entry examples. And remember, this is basically what we're going to be teaching you in week 2, and we'll show you exactly what this entails. And these are entry points in these particular examples designed for trading strong trending markets, okay? So let's say you're the type of continuation trader that likes to trade a lot in a strong trending market. Well, remember we had looked at that first chart we shared with you in Netflix, and say you had problems entering, or say you wanted to enter a lot. Well, with what we teach you in week 2, these are all the entry points you could have taken advantage of, all right? These are all based on what we're going to be teaching and sharing with you with high probability and advanced entry points. Now, we're not saying you would have to take every one, but you could decide for yourself which one you would want to take, and we show you different variables to help you make your decision on which one you'd like to take. But ultimately, it's going to be your choice. You are in charge of your own trading. We give you the variables, we give you the different options in which to decide from, but you must decide, okay? Obviously, you can see here, this is for a trader who would like a lot of setups. Now, on the same way, we can look at a downward market. In TSRO, we've had a strong market to the downside coming into March here. If you are a continuation trader that likes to sell into this movement on the downside, look at all the signals you could have taken advantage of to go short. Once again, we're going to show you how to take advantage of these in week 2 for entries. You notice we're not talking about exits here. We will not be talking about stop placement. We will not be talking about money management. In our 4-week masterclass, we're only going to be sharing with you high probability and advanced entries and exits. Now, here's a great example, because a lot of students say, well, Steve, this is great. Okay, I can see this is a very strong trendy market in QTS, and as it's going up with this technique which you've shared with me, I have a high probability entry points and lots of chances to get in. But what happens when the trend changes? I don't want to be buying all the way down. Well, with our techniques and what we're going to be sharing with you, that will happen many times. As you see here in QTS, it was going up tremendously up until December of last year. And then coming into the end of February last month, we see that we've gone down tremendously. The beauty of what we'll be teaching you is that we are always in sync with the trend. In other words, our entry techniques will never be out of sync with the overall trend. So once the trend does change and you're able to spot it, then you will simply be giving signals, entry signals, going the opposite direction or the way of the trend. We will never be trading trying to pick bottoms or trying to pick tops. That is a recipe for disaster, doesn't work. So our entry techniques do not focus on that. What our entry techniques focus on is trading in sync with the trend. You have a higher probability of being a consistent trader if you're swimming with the current at your back rather than trying to swim against the current or upstream. All right, let's say you are the type of trader that wants entry points designed for re-entering the markets. Let's say you had a good trade, you got out, and then you want to get back in because you think that this is going to be going more in your direction. Well, let's look at an example here. This is an FOSL. This was in January coming into February. Let's say you had entered right here around this area, and in a month or so you had a really nice trade. You got out right here at the top, and it's come down, but you thought it was really going to fall out of bed. You thought you got out at the top, and it's kind of basing around here, and you're thinking, wow, I want to get in. But according to my method of what I trade, it hasn't generated a buy entry for me. So I don't know where or how to get back in. This is what we teach you in week 2, because what we're going to be sharing with you in week 2 would have actually generated 2 points to get back in here. In the first and second week of February, you could have entered once again into a first solar, and then look what happened. Now, we're not guaranteeing you that this will happen each and every time, but many times because we're in sync with the trend, you get these nice, really up moves that are such a surprise and enable you not to sit there and go, boy, why did I sell this, but give you a second chance to get back in. Now, this not only works to the upside, it can happen to the downside as well. Here is a 1-hour chart of the E-mini futures. This was just a week or so ago at the end of February. Let's say you decided to sell the futures. We sold right here, and you had a really nice trade. In just a little over a day, you had some really nice shorting trade here. But now you're thinking, gosh, the market does not seem like it's going to bounce at all. And coming into March 1st, I think I want to sell again. But you don't know how to get back in. Should you just sell at the market? But what if it goes right back up? What you want is a high probability entry point. And that's what we're going to be talking about in week 2, because it would have given you an entry point right here to go short, get back in once again, and look what happened coming in to the next day. Okay? So this is enabling you to get back into a trade, even though your strategy, your system, your method was able to generate and furnish a nice trade for you. You still want to get back in. You just have no idea where or how to get back in. All right. What if you are a pullback trader? What if you said, well, Steve, this is great, but I'm not one of those guys who wants a lot of trades. I want to look for those high probability pullbacks. So if we're in a downtrend, an overall downtrend, I want to see a little bounce and I want to sell at a higher level. Okay. I don't want to sell as it goes down lower and lower. I want to wait for a higher price so I can sell. Or let's say you're a buyer, you're in an overall uptrend and the market starts to sell off, all right? Where most traders are thinking, that's it, we're going topping out, we're going to make new lows. You're saying, no, I think we're just going to come to a lower level. I want to buy at a cheap, inexpensive price. But how do I do that, all right? Well, this is what we're going to be talking about once again in week 2. As we see here in Pepsi, we see here that we had a nice run up coming in November all the way up to the beginning of January. At the beginning of the year, when the market was starting to make new highs, this started to sell off. Where most people were saying, well, this high wasn't confirmed. All right, we broke this great support right here. So this was, we see here these lows were creating support. Once we close below that, all bets are off. This is probably going much lower. You should be selling this or at least not in this at all. Well, with the high entry technique we're going to be sharing with you today, this actually would have generated a buy signal. So in week 2, you would have seen that Pepsi actually generated a buy signal on this pullback because the overall trend is still up. So on a pullback, you would have seen a buy signal and been able to take advantage of that nice continuation in trend. Where most traders were saying it was over, it had topped out, you were not bucking the trend. You were not trying to pick a bottom. You were trading a pullback entry. As you can see here, there are less setups with a pullback entry, all right, where someone would want to be buying all along the way. You wait for that high probability low area to buy. Same thing on the downside, okay, TSRO once again. it's heading strongly down. Now you can be a continuation trader and try to sell it all the way up, but as you can know here, all the way down I should say, but as you know here, they had some little up patterns every once in a while that you could have taken advantage of. Well, with the technique I share with you in week number 2, it actually generated sell signals on these pullbacks, and one sell signal was generated here, all right? Coming into the end of February, this last month, you would have had a nice move to the downside. This is in TSRO. Do you see how you're going to have less trades, but these high probability entries many times at the top of those bounces? Now this can work on weekly charts as well. As you can see, we have a nice kind of stair-step approach to this upward trend in letter H. These are all weekly bars. And using this high probability pullback technique, see that we had some very nice buys at the lows of these pullbacks. And the last one was generated here on this weekly chart in July coming into August. And look at the nice run up you had later on using the same technique we'll be talking about for pullbacks. Pullback techniques will generate less setups, but they have higher probability points of entry at lower prices or selling at higher prices. Now we can also go to an entirely different market, entirely different time frame. This is the Euro Yen. This is a 4-hour chart of the Euro Yen coming in past week, the last week in February. Once again, it looked as if we were going lower, but all of a sudden we bottomed out. And now we're starting to head up, where most people are thinking, well, on this 4-hour chart of the Euro Yen, we probably bottomed out, right? But with what we teach you in our master class, you'll see that we were actually in an overall downtrend. This was simply a counter trend in an overall downtrend. So you want to be selling that. That's basically a pullback to the upside. As you can see here, a sell signal was generated in the last week of February. And look what happened coming into March 1st, okay? Now, what if you're the type of trader who wants to add to long-term positions? Let's say you're not even a trader, you're just an investor, okay? Well, we can show you how to add to those long-term positions. These are entry points designed to get you or to increase your position for holding it for the long term. Let's share with you another chart of Netflix. Now, before we showed you the weekly chart, this is a monthly chart of Netflix going all the way back to 2013. We're going back about 5 years now, all right? Obviously, great investment. Who wouldn't have wanted to buy Netflix? Let's say you were lucky enough to buy Netflix in February of 2013, coming into March and May, all right? So you would purchase it here. These are all monthly bars here. Let's say you would purchase it down here around the $30 level, and you're done fine. But once you've got all that profit, you feel very confident about this stock. You feel maybe you're a fundamental analyst. You like to look at fundamental news. Maybe all your analyzations said this company is going to be worth a lot more. I want to continue to add to my long-term position, but how do you do it? Well, with the techniques we share with you in week 2, I should say, these entry techniques could have generated all these buy setups. Some are better than others, we know that, but we show you how you can decide which ones you might want to take. We show you different variables for entry, different variables that you could decide, okay? Now that's on a monthly chart of Netflix. Let's go to a weekly chart of GE. Now GE has been going tremendously lower this past year. Let's say you were lucky enough to short this stock, all right? Now we know not everyone shorts stock, but perhaps you had puts, perhaps you had some long-term strategy for selling the puts to this or selling the calls even. Well, as you can see here, you could have added to your position using all of these entry points to go short GE on a weekly time frame. This is going back to February of 2017, so a full year of all entry points to the downside. Lastly, we talk about entry points designed for traders who want to either trade more or want to trade less, because once again, the only problem is when you are out of sync with your design for entry. In other words, if you're trading far too many that fits your persona, or you're trading far too less that fits your persona, all right? I have taught and mentored students, and everyone is different. I've taught students around the world for years, and some students like a lot of action, some students don't want to trade more than once a month. And there's nothing wrong with either one. The only thing wrong is when you are purposely trading out of sync, thinking that you should be trading a certain way. Remember, our goal is to teach you and to provide you with this information so that you can decide. But you have to decide for yourself what type of trader you are. Do you like a lot of trades? Do you like less entries? So as you can see here, this is a 15-minute chart of the E-mini coming into the last week of February. Straight up market, if you're the type of trader who likes a lot of action, and most intraday traders do, well, look at all the entries you could have taken advantage of. Some better than others, obviously, but using this one technique that we reveal in week number 2. All right, these are all valid entry techniques for trading lots and lots of signals. Or we could look at this in KBR. Someone could say, well, Steve, look at this. This is going up and then going down. How could we have traded this? Well, lots of signals to the upside as we're going higher. And then once we change trends, lots of signals to go short to the downside. It makes no difference which direction, which market, or which time frame. These techniques are universal and they can be applied. Now, they're all not 100% guaranteed to generate winners, but they have a high probability for consistency. As we look here in BUFF, we see here that we have a nice upward movement trend. And if you wanted a lot of signals on this daily bar, this is only going back about 2 or 3 months, there were a lot of signals you could have taken advantage of. And then, in fact, one was generated here just a few weeks ago, and you could have taken advantage of this nice upward move. Once again, this is not guaranteed, but we've seen over the years that if you are in sync with the overall trend, many times you can take advantage of news events or big gap openings to the upside or downside, depending on what side of the market you are with the overall trend. Since the overall trend was up, we were only generating buy signals, and you could have taken advantage of this. Roughly, you had a good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, over 6 signals in the last couple of months to go long this stock. Now remember, we're going to be talking in week 2 about advanced entries. We're only going to be focusing on entries, but trust me, we have 3 more weeks where we devote a lot more to entries, but also to advanced exits as well. So don't worry, we're not going to just be talking about entries. We're going to be teaching you different techniques and different ways, high probability ways to exit as well. Some traders like to get in and out quickly. Some traders like to squeeze the profit for as much bang for their buck. There's nothing wrong, once again, with either one. Don't ever let anyone tell you that that's not the way you should be trading. You just have to be in sync with your style. Our job as your educator is simply to provide you with the different techniques and the different styles so that you can choose which one best meets your needs. For example here, these are coming from week 3 where we talk about the floor trader exit secrets, and these are based on patterns and indicators. Let's say you had purchased the QQQs roughly down here in January 1st, and we had a really nice trend to the upside coming into the middle of January. If you were a certain type of trader that liked to get in and out quickly, well, you could have used exit number 1, which we teach you in the course. If you like to stay in moderately, well, you could have used exit number 2. And if you wanted to squeeze as much bang for your buck, you could use exit number 3. You could use partial of all these. In other words, let's say you had 300 shares. You could have sold 100 shares at exit 1, your second 100 shares at exit 2, and then your last at exit 3. Or maybe half at exit 2 and half at exit 3. Or maybe when you got to exit 1, you move your stop to unchanged. At exit 2, you sell a portion. At exit 3, you sell everything. Excuse me. So this is all different variables, different ways to trade this, but we will spend a good amount of time on exits. But please remember that today we focus just on week 2, which was simply entries. But we're not going to forget about exits as well. Extremely important, and we know they are a difficult part, what most traders have problems with. So let's go over the curriculum one last time before we talk to you about our special masterclass. All right, week 1, we're listening to the markets. Remember, we're going to have an emphasis on understanding trend and price analysis. And once we formalize a little bit of structure around this, this will help you tremendously on deciding what your right entries and exit points will be. In week 2, we talk about high probability entry points. We showed you that just a few minutes ago. All the examples were coming from what we'll be teaching you in week 2. So if you're the type of trader that likes to trade a lot, or you're the type of trader that doesn't like to trade a lot at all, or if you're the type of trader that likes to trade continuation, or if you're the type of trader that likes to trade pullbacks, that's what we're going to be focusing on, our high probability entry points. Week 3 are floor trader secrets. These are things that I primarily use in my own personal trading. They have an emphasis on traditional technical analysis. And so we're going to be looking at patterns and indicators, very common patterns, very common indicators, but with a few small tweaks and a few small alterations to help you with your entries and exits. And then lastly, in week 4, we're going to talk about advanced ways to use the PET-D, specifically for entries and exits. We've always talked about using the PET-D to confirm a signal already established within a trading strategy or system. But here we're going to talk about just how to use the PET-D alone by itself as an entry and exit advisor. Okay, so this promises to be a great class in week number 4. Now, if you go to my website or Pro Trader Strategies, you'll see that there are tons of testimonials coming from first-time traders to actual hedge fund traders who have increased their odds of consistency simply by taking our live classes, okay? This is the first, though, in our series of master classes. Remember, 2 to 3 times a year, we will cover a different series, anywhere from money management to different strategy plans, to different topics, even psychological aspects of trading the market. But this is what we're going to be calling our masterclass now, and things that we haven't really devoted a lot of time to, but that we're touching on because we know that there are specific issues for a lot of traders. Now, let me talk to you about today's special attendee discount. We're having our 4-week masterclass very soon, within the next month or so. These are 4 weeks of detailed instructions. They are live classes. Remember, we're going to talk about advanced entry techniques, but we're also talking about advanced exit techniques. This is coming from 41 years of trading experience. But here's the one thing I want to talk about. We're not going to just stop there. We're also going to include the PTS Primo charting platform. This is the educational portal that you've been searching for. Now, even though it's not required, all the things I'm going to be sharing with you today, you will be able to use on your own. Just a few things that would be a lot easier using with our PTS Primo charts. So we're going to also include that for a year if you don't have that already, okay? This is coming with educational signal alerts that are provided on the platform. Now, let's look at a couple of these examples here. Here's a weekly chart of the British pound. If you had been able to use our platform, you would have seen that all these signals were generated. These are pullback signals in a weekly chart of the platform of the British pound. And as we see here in MAXR, these are all signals as well that you could have taken advantage of for entry, all right? So trust me, when I say a year from today, you will have wished you became a member of our masterclass. Remember, in our series, we are only touching on one topic, one piece of the puzzle. We're not going to be talking about money management. We're not going to be talking about stop placement. We're not going to be talking so much about different trend identifiers. We're simply going to be talking and focusing on advanced entries and advanced exits in this particular series. As we progress and go on later on in the year onto other series in our masterclass, then we will cover those other topics that we know concern you as well. So here's our 4-week masterclass live classes. If you're not able to attend the live classes, we will be recording each and every one of them, but the beauty of this is that you have live interaction with yours truly, mentoring correspondence, 41 years of trading experience. These are things I use in my own daily trading. In fact, I used them this morning. Today, I had 2 trades. One trade was a break even, the other trade was a winner. And I use these techniques that I share with you in our class. So this course would normally run close to $5,000, $49.95. Don't worry, we have a great discount for you today. In fact, we're discounting it $500 down to $44.95. This is our early bird price. Plus, we have payment plans available. So if you can't come up with that lump sum for the live 4-week class, the interaction with myself, you can still have a small deposit and still have the class and be up and running in our very first class. So this is going to be a great, great addition to all the different courses, all the different colleges we have, because we're going to be focusing on these topics we know that have been trouble to you as of late. Remember, we titled this, what are the things that you find most difficult about trading? Each of our series of masterclasses will cover one of the topics that we know have concerned you. In this one, our very first one that we're going to be kicking off will be devoted to entries and exits. Now, here's how to take advantage of this great offer. Contact my sister site, Pro Trader Strategies. You can email them at their email address. Probably the best thing I would recommend and suggest is to call them directly. They have trading consultants manning the phones. You can call them directly at 310-598-6677, and they will answer any question you have about discounts, or more importantly, about establishing a payment plan. Remember, once again, if you have a limited amount of funds, for a small deposit, you can still be up and running, and you can be taking advantage of this live 4-week class. Now, this is the link at the very bottom that will take you to the sign up with the discount. It's not a live link, but if you see on the chat box, they have posted a live link. So all you have to do is click on that, and it will automatically take you to the sign up page. Okay. I'm going to leave this up here while I answer any questions that you may have. I see that a lot of people were answering the initial question that what is the most difficult thing they find about trading. It's finding the trend and then exits and stops. Unfortunately, we're not going to be talking too much about trend or stops, even though our entries and exits will deal a little bit with the trend, but we will be talking about exits. Stops, I would assume, and money management or managing the trade will be another masterclass, possibly the next one we give later on in the year. But in this one, we're only going to be talking about entries. Let's see, people are asking about the 4-week class. Will it be recorded? Yes, it is, because if you can't make the live class, don't worry, we record all of our courses so you can watch them at your own leisure. But the main thing I would want to stress is that you would want to see if you could attend the classes, because that's where you get the live interaction with myself, and we can go over anything that you're interested in and talk about it while it's happening. Let's say a recent example that happened within the last day or the last week, we could cover for you. Now, one of the things a lot of questions are, when are the classes going to be held? Well, usually we will hold them on a Friday, sometimes during the market, sometimes after, but we are flexible. We know that we have students all over the world. We have students in over 110 countries and in every state. So everyone's on a different time zone. Everyone has different work hours. So we can take a vote and find out through majority what is the best time for everyone. And one of the last courses we had, sometimes we had classes on the weekends because that helps everyone. If you want to hold classes prior to the opening, before the opening, that's perfectly okay. During the day or even after the close would be fine as well. Whatever suits you the best and whatever helps the majority of our students. Okay. I guess other students are saying that so everything will be disclosed. Yes, we share with you and show you all these. They were talking about the patterns and the indicators. Yes, this is all included. These patterns and indicators that I'll be talking about in Floor Trader Secrets, things that I learned that possibly I've touched on just very lightly, but I go into greater detail and show you advanced ways in which to use this. Okay. Let's see, Mark. Oh, hi, Mark. Mark is a student. He goes, Steve, is this similar to strategy 4 and 5? Because I'm using these two already. And he's up 8,000 since January. Well, good for you, Mark. Wow, that's a great unsolicited testimonial. Thank you. But no, see, I'm glad you asked that. These are not strategies, okay? These are not in any way telling you all of the pieces of the puzzle. What happens a lot of times is that members or even non-members will say, well, Steve, you know what? I have a plan already, and I've been using this for years, and it's okay, but wow, sometimes I get in too late and I miss the boat. You know, the stock or the future is already up points, many points, and then that's when my method generates a buy signal. And it's like, how can I buy now? It's up too late. Or many times it gets me in too early. You know, my trading plan is good, but gosh, I have to have enough discipline to hold on, because sometimes I'll get in and it drops, you know, 2 or 3, maybe 5 points, but then later on it goes up. But sometimes I just get too scared and get out. You know, is there a better entry plan? So this is what we're focusing on. We're just focusing on one piece of the puzzle in this masterclass, and that's what we're going to be doing. That's going to be the main topic and the main theme of the masterclass, focusing on one of the pieces of the puzzle that you're having particular difficulty with. Now, with strategies, they have all the pieces of the puzzle together, and that's why our courses are more expensive, and that's why they're longer and they're more detailed. There's much more information because there's much more things involved. With this, we're only going to be focusing on a piece of the puzzle so that you can really improve your consistency, maybe by fine-tuning the entries and exits. Okay, Mark? I hope that answers your question, and congratulations on having a good first portion of the year. Remember, these are all things I use in my current trading, and these are all things that my mentors taught me some 4 decades ago. So if they've helped me and they've helped to sustain my trading for that long, I really think they'll increase your odds for consistency and increase your odds for trading, not just a couple of years, but maybe a couple of decades, or maybe 30 years or even 40 years down the road. So if you've ever had trouble with your entries and exits, this is the master class for you. Okay, we're excited about this. This is the very first in our series of master classes we'll be presenting throughout the year. So get on board for the first one, and you can really see how powerful it's going to be. As we close here, I hope you got something out of this. I hope you see how entries, just by fine-tuning your entries and exits, you'll be able to increase your odds to become a consistent trader. Remember, if you don't have the capital to come up with one lump sum, don't worry. You can establish a payment plan with Pro Trader Strategies. As I said earlier, I would strongly recommend calling them 310-598-6677, and they can set up a payment plan with you so that you can be up and running in our first class, and you can just establish a payment plan and then pay for a small deposit and still be there with us, okay? If not, simply go to the link provided in our chat box, and you can take advantage of signing up for that discounted price right off the bat, the early bird price, okay? Thank you so much for attending. I really hope you got something out of this. I hope we educated you a little bit more about continuation and about pullback entries. But most of all, I look forward to you becoming students of mine in our very first masterclass series, okay? Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.